Hello, all of you gloriously wonderful people, and welcome back to Astroneer, where tragedy has struck. You may notice there's a lot missing from the base behind me. Just a few platforms, a little energy on the roof, a massive hole, along with a crater blasted out of the ground. You may remember that kind of like just on the other side of what, well, there used to be a wall here, there was a shredder. And that's what we use to create scrap to go on the trade platform. And well, that shouldn't ever have explosives put in it. Let's just put it that way. Anything that can blow up should never ever go into the shredder. Yeah, it can create some really big. Probably shouldn't have walked over here because now you can see that the cave that was here is gone. Yeah, I'm absolutely, totally full of shit here. I moved. I have a new base. This is the old base. This is the old base, by the way. This is what's left of it. This is the stuff that's left behind. You can't take anything from the shelter with you. And I left some power over here because there's also a research chamber, so that in the future, if there's any DLC, well, at least research chamber has power. But I brought the buggy with me, or the rover, or the buggy, whatever it's called. It's a buggy. And we're going to drive to our new base. I've even made, like, a highway for it. And while we're there, I've been talking a long time about wanting to kind of do just like an episode where we just talk about base building. This is it. Try to keep it as short as possible, but there's a lot to talk about. Though some of it will go into more detail in the next video, which is already recorded, which is weird. Anyway, we are in, let's start with transportation, since we're driving there. And your first mode of transportation, of course, is you walk. You guys all saw that in the first video. You walk, and if you don't have tethers to get you where you're going, you run out of oxygen and die. So that's your first mode of transportation. Pretty early in the game, you can research both the tractor and this buggy that we're in. The tractor allows you to pull a trailer that has a couple of tier 2 slots. So what is a tier 2 slot? Well, I can easier explain it by what's a tier 1 slot. Here on the buggy, there are 2 tier 1 slots, one of which is underneath that battery. It's basically just a spot that holds one single item. And just like on the backpack as well. Those are all tier 1 slots. Though some of them are specialized for the backpack, but that's a whole other story. But the tractor has some tier 2 slots, which research items and medium solar panels, medium wind turbines, things like that. They are all tier 2 slot items, so they require a little bit of bigger space. Then there is, of course, the next up rover, which has on each trailer available 2 tier 2 slots, which makes up a tier 3 slot, so you can carry even bigger items. And then, of course, there's the large rover. That's a tier 4 slot, which you guessed it, is a bunch of tier 3 slots. 4 of them, in fact. Like how that math works out. But we are nearing our base, and I can show you a little bit more what I'm talking about with those tier slots. All of the vehicles are fairly competent on the terrain, though some of them, like this buggy and the tractor, do struggle to have enough power to go over really complicated, really steep, really rough terrain. But, you know, they do their best. But so that's, whoops, I am stuck inside of this. I don't know how I managed that. There we go. So that's the rover, or the buggy. And then, of course, there's the tractor. You guys remember that. Not only do we have this one, but we have actually 2 on different moons now. I didn't do it in a video, but yeah. So this little slot right here, these slots here, it's 2 tier 1 slots, which makes a tier 2 on the trailer. Of course, that tier 2 has been doubled by putting the medium storage. So instead of being able to hold 2 tier 1 items, it can now hold 8. So kind of a cool way to be able to expand your storage capability. The medium, excuse me, I'm still getting over a bit of a thing. The medium rover has 4 tier 1 slots, all connected by a big I-beam, or if you want to put it another way, 2 tier 2 slots, which makes tier 3 slot. And then, of course, the big, giant, massive rover. I don't know how much this has really been featured in videos. Well, it has tier 4 slots on it, which are 2 tier 3 slots, again, connected by a big eye. So it can hold a lot. Like when we go out exploring, I mean, look at how much stuff I can bring back with me. It's a lot. And then, of course, the other vehicles are the small shuttle, which doesn't have any cargo capacity. It only carries an oxygenator. You can take that oxygenator out, put some other tier 2 item there, but then when you get to another planet, you're not going to have oxygen, so not advisable. On all the shuttles, you can fit a thruster. I have hydrazine thrusters on all of mine, which are reusable, and use hydrazine, which you can see here. It's that purple stuff in these canisters. Yeah, manufacture it, and we'll get into how you manufacture that later. There's the medium shuttle, which has, I believe, 1 tier 4 slot in it. No, it has 2 tier 2 slots in it, my bad. So you can get a little bit of cargo in there to bring things back from other planets, or take things to a planet, however you want to do it. But then there's the big daddy there. We've got some tier 3 slots up there. I guess none of them have tier 4, but that is the large shuttle. So that's transportation in Astroneer in like 6 minutes. That's how you get around the planet, but of course your base is where you do everything. Every base comes with this shelter. Of course, I had to build this shelter because it didn't give it to me. When you first start a game, you get a shelter, plus like a little launch base. And that launch base contains 3 items. It has in it an oxygenator. Since this is a shelter that I manufactured, I don't believe I can remove this one's oxygenator. I could be wrong. Yeah, I can't even click it. It's just a thing there. It just comes with it. But it's not there on your very first one. You have to unpackage it, put it in. You can put it on a little table if you want, because you also get, if you remember back when we just started a few minutes ago at the other base, those medium tables. You get one of those, and then you also get a medium printer. And this is where you enter here, and it lets you save the game, which kills your frame rate for a second. It used to be you could also take refuge in there during storms, but storms aren't in the game anymore. Comes with power plugs, and that's where we'll move next is power, but it also comes with 2 tier 1 slots, so you can attach whatever you like to the side of it. Cool thing is the base transmits a little bit of power through this RTG right here, radio isotope something or other, I forget what it's called, but it doesn't put out a whole lot. You can make your own, which I've done, which are these 2 guys right here. Power generation, I'm radioisotope thermoelectric generators. So they each put out 4 units of power, so that's 8 units of power. The marbles do nothing, they just look cool. And of course I have 4 medium batteries. They each put out 3 units of power. 8 wind turbines, so that when they're actually running, are putting out 1 unit of power each for a total of 8. And then the large solar array puts out 8 units of power when it is receiving sun. So everything you can see, I've tried to go over factors of 8, except for these guys where it's 12, because, well, I didn't want just 9 by doing 3 of them, if that makes sense. Power flows through these cables, and I came over here just to demonstrate a point. Some of the cables that go to splitters or power extenders only flow in one direction. The same is true on vehicles when they're plugged into something other than their own trailers. Like right now, power is going between these cables, but if I were to go, say, plug this in to the base, if I plugged it in that direction, plugged it into the base, power would flow out of this whole assembly and provide power to my base. If I went the opposite direction and grabbed a plug from the base and plugged it into there, then it would work to charge up my rover. So power is directional in a lot of circumstances, but on the base and all these storage platforms and things like that, it is bidirectional and just creates a power grid that allows you to share power among every resource that's plugged in, unless, of course, it's going directional. The only reason I have this one going directional, this lets me monitor how many total units of power I am putting out by bringing it in from just one place. It should give me the same number, even if I were to like plug this in. I don't have an extra port available right now. But like if I were to put that into there, it should give me the same number. You can create isolated power grids using splitters and extenders. I wouldn't recommend it though, because when you do this, you're limited to however much power you put through and no more. Whereas if you do the system where I have, where everything's just interconnected and the cables just kind of glow, then all the power is shared among everything, no matter where it is in the chain or if you remember to get it in the right pattern or anything for the flow. So that's power and the base and transportation. We looked at the research chamber back when we were over at the old base, and you guys have seen me do a lot of research throughout the game. Researching items is required because very little is actually researched, and they're all small items. I think like tethers are researched, and God, there's not much that's researched when you first start the game. And you have to go around, find research items, put them in the research chamber, and allow it to get bytes. Once you've got enough bytes, you can unlock. You can see everything is unlocked because I've completed all the research. For now, I'm sure if there's ever DLC, they'll research it. But that's how you are then able to build all this stuff that you see is through research. One of the first things you wind up with, I mentioned earlier, the small printer is already unlocked. And then you can also create a medium printer and ultimately a large printer. And those are the things that create all the items that you see. They were all came from a printer, unless I just found it out on the planet somewhere. You guys will see me do that as well. The printers, of course, use resources. These resources, some of which you can mine directly out of the ground on this planet and others. Matter of fact, everything up to this glass here that we've seen on this row, that's exactly how it comes out of the ground. Glass, of course, has to be put into a special tool to turn it into glass. And the same is true for everything else this direction. You do not mine it as it is. I'm working on getting 40 of every single resource in the game. Why? Because I can. Because I have the free time to do it. Getting there. You can see I've gotten almost all the way through all the gases. I started on some of the stuff that comes through another device as well. But those resources are combined in various ways to make various things into printers. You can see an extra large platform requires 2 resin and 2 iron, even though it's partly covered up. It's one of the problems is sometimes the UI covers up things you don't want it to. I wish they would give it priority that what you're looking at. So say there you go, graphene, plastic, glass, and copper to make, that's what it took to make that big solar array right there. And there's actually another one of these up on another planet somewhere. Sorry for all the little quick random edits. You can probably tell that my allergies and my illness are bearing down on me and, well, causing great problems. So once you have printers and once you've got some basic things going, of course, you do have to take these basic elements and turn them into something else. That is all done through medium storage, or not medium storage, my bad, through the smelting. I saw the word medium storage on that and read it, but that's through the smelting furnace. And to demonstrate how the smelting furnace works, I am gonna use the soil centrifuge to also demonstrate how it works. When you use your soil extractor, I forget what this little gun thing is called. When you use it, if you have this canister on it, it will collect soil until it's full. That soil can be placed, this one has to have an extra in my backpack, can be placed here in the soil centrifuge, and you can make several different things. Right now we're making organic. Some will make up to 8 units of whatever it is you're trying to manufacture. Some will make only 2. Just trying to see if maybe this canister belongs out here on the large rover. It does not. It has all 4 of its canisters. That drill on the front of there, by the way, we'll cover that some other time, but allows you to collect a lot of soil really, really fast. So anyway, what we're gonna do here is swap out this storage, and now when I place this platform onto the smelter, it's immediately going to pick up some of this organic and start smelting it into carbon. Carbon's a more advanced material that's required for some more advanced things, and that's how you get the more advanced resources, except there are a couple other things that can be required as well. One is the atmospheric condenser. It literally does what it sounds like. It pulls gas out of the atmosphere, condenses it way down and stores it in these little balls here. You guys have seen me use it in a couple different videos. That gas can be useful on its own for a couple things, but for the most part, what you then do is bring it over here to the chemistry lab, where you can make different things. Like I was making some steel earlier, and you can see it requires iron, carbon, and argon to make steel. And I don't have all of those resources right now. I'm missing both the iron and the carbon, or I can show you exactly how that works. What we do have, though, is we'll steal that, because I can show you one. Not everything requires you to have the gases. Some things you can just combine together and wind up making a different resource. I think it may be carbon that I need for this, actually, now that I think about it. Resin and organic. It is carbon, so I want to grab one of these carbons instead. So we can put this guy back. Grab one of the carbons that are already done. And there you can see, with those two resources, that the chemistry lab can make plastic. It just does science. It's all science-y, as Doctor Who would say. And there you go. We have plastic. Just that easy. I do have most of the gases sitting here ready for it to use. It will grab them as necessary and just pop them up there if I have all of the resources. So it's really cool. And then the final thing, and we'll look at it again in the next video when I show you just a funny exploit in this game, is the large shredder that creates scrap. And sadly right now I don't have anything to shred. I could make something, but then it'll ruin the whole purpose of tomorrow's video. But when we're out and about and we've seen items on the back of different wreckage, which I think there's some nearby over here, that's why I'm running over here. But you've probably seen me grab solar panels that are working, sometimes some busted stuff as well that I would ignore in early videos because I didn't have a shredder at the time. Of course, right now I can't find anything. Of course, oh, there you go. I think I've already recovered all the scrap items from over here, though. Yeah, I have. But, yeah, all these platforms, you've seen that they previously have had broken things on them. You can bring those broken things, or you can just bring things that you no longer want or need to use and put them in the shredder as well, and they make scrap. And then you take that scrap, and you probably saw that right next to the shredder, there is the trade platform. So we've been recording a video. It's the next video you'll see. That's why all of this graphite's on here. Don't worry. The video you're going to see tomorrow, it's not something I engage in regularly, nor do I condone as part of your gameplay, because it does kind of short-circuit part of the game and takes it from being fun and cool and mysterious and sometimes frustrating and challenging to being just a boring grind. And you don't want to do that to a game like this. But trade platform, you put some scrap on there, it shows you what the trade rate's going to be for it. And you can see some things are more costly, some things are really cheap. We just got some graphite earlier. 1 scrap gets me 2 graphite. So if I send that off at a space, it will come back with 8 graphite because I sent 4 scrap. And that, in a nutshell, is a base. Of course, there are all kinds of storage options. There's these large platforms that really help facilitate getting power to items, because on its own, that printer's useless. It can not do a thing. There's no power going to it. You can see I cannot interact with it other than to pick it up and put it on a platform. Now it's ready to go. The same is true, like these smaller platforms allow you to attach items to them. In this case, I attached a large storage and put my wind power on top of it to conduct the wind power and to also save space, because instead of just being able to hold 2, there's a trade platform coming back. Instead of just being able to hold 2 of the medium wind turbines, so now I can hold 4 because of that. And it doesn't matter what angle they go. Trying to think of what else, if anything, we really need to cover. Probably just, you know, the idea of maximizing your storage when you're exploring, as I've done. We talked about briefly. I didn't know how much time it would take to get through everything else, so I didn't go too in depth in it. But even when I was using just the medium rover, I maximized my storage capability as best as possible. So you can see normally that would only be able to carry 4 tier 1 items on top, or 2 tier 2 items. Well, that's fine, but now I can carry 32 tier 1 items. And then up on this one, I can carry 4 tier 2 instead of just 2. So it really does give you the capability to have even more space. So why did I move to a new base? Why did I go to the elaborate scheme at the beginning also of making it look like it blew up? That was just so I could have a intro and you'd be like, oh my god, what happened? But I wanted to move to this new base because, one, it's already beginning to happen here again. When I do need to go get scrap, I was having to go for 20, 30-minute travels to literally actual real 20 and 30 minutes to go find anything that I could bring back to scrap. Whereas around here, I haven't even really explored much in that direction. I mean, there is a gateway just right over by that green beacon. That's why that green beacon's there to let me know where a tunnel is that I dug. That's a shortcut to the gateway, essentially. Literally, that's all that's at that green beacon is a hole in the ground. But you can see I haven't really come this way a whole lot, and there is still stuff out here. I don't know if I've taken the stuff off of this platform. Yeah, I have. But there's a whole world yet to be explored out here. New things to find, new resources to take back, or a research item just randomly sitting in the middle of the floor over there. And so I wanted a new place, but I was also, I don't know, that base was the first time I really set about building my own base and really actually playing the game outside of beta. And I learned a lot about what makes a functional base and how I would like things to be arranged and not be arranged. And I thought it was cool at first to build like that little shelter that was in the back, and it turned out, yeah, but the lighting engine in this game is really good, and it was just always dark back there, so it just always looked dreary. Now we're just out in the open, and the stars, and the sky's pretty, and there's no reason to be in shelter. You're not exposed to any elements anymore. On top of that, the other base wasn't very flat, and this one still suffers slightly from the problem where it slopes up. Especially back over this way, and I think it's just kind of a weird thing with a terrain editor. Even though I was leveling from the same spots, every once in a while there's like little dips like that one, and it seems like it goes uphill. Matter of fact, it does. You can tell that there is a slight, when we look at it this way, there is an incline to this, because that should be flat underneath us. It's impossible to get it perfectly flat, I've discovered, but the other one was just so bumpy and inconsistent. I just didn't like the look of it. It just, I don't know, it always bugged me. So I found the new spot, went into orbit, literally, I went into orbit in my shuttle, found the new spot, went back after putting down a beacon, made a shelter, brought it back, and then I used that big rover there to begin what took me about 9 total hours to transport everything over. And of course I got rid of some things, left some things behind, and have started building new stuff, especially for my far expanded storage system, which is way better, less chaotic, and everything is now in a nice, neat order where I know where it is, I can find it easily, because it's also in the same order as that resource sheet that I've thrown up on the screen in a couple different videos. So that's going to do it. That's the new base. In the next video, we're going to show you a fun little exploit that is currently in the game at the time I record this, that uses graphite, your backpack, and this shredder. Even a medium or the smaller shredder would do it. But that's the next time, and until then, I'm Brandon, reminding you to stay vainglorious.